And this covers, we're talking about Croydon, Kingston, Merton, Richmond and Sutton. I'm going to introduce you to my colleagues on the panel. But before I do that, I've just seen the little notice, which I forgot to mention. This is being recorded. So we have this for posterity. If anyone has any issues with this, then, please don't, put your camera on, etc. I'm going to introduce you to Paul Kirkbright, who's South London Partnership and Big South London Initiative. Hello, Paul.
Good morning, Helen. Nice to see you.
Thank you. And Paul's role is he's the head of Knowledge and Exchange Partnership, and he's responsible for the the development of the Big South London programme. So there we go. So our next panelist is Sahar Mansouri Zangir. Sahar is business development partner and a lecturer in innovation at Kingston University. In this role, she supports development of collaborative projects between industry and academia that helps businesses on their trajectory of growth through different initiatives, such as the Big Initiative Support Programme, which is why we're here. And then the third member is Ewan Kerr. Ewan Kerr is the Programme Manager for the Innovation Support Programme. He also manages two other Big South London programmes, so this is not the only one. So I'm going to, I haven't left anyone out, have I? No.
No, we're all here, Helen. We're all here.
You're jolly good. Paul, I'm going to fire a question at you, because could you tell us more about Big South London for those who aren't familiar with the programme?
Yes, be delighted to, Helen. The Big South London is a collaboration, a partnership collaboration that's being led by the South London Partnership. And as you said, Helen, the South London Partnership covers, the sub-regional partnership covers the boroughs of Richmond, Kingston, Sutton, Croydon and Merton. An economy of about £32 billion, so a real powerhouse of a kind of sub-regional economy. Big South London came together to basically connect more activities between the kind of leading class universities and research intensive organisations that we have within South London and the South London business community and community groups within South London to basically unleash more of the talent and the expertise that is in London for the benefit of businesses within South London. We know South London as a region lags behind the London average, but also the UK average in terms of investment into structured R&D, research and development activities. The CBI last year published some data that showed the London average per capita of the workforce for investment in R&D activities was about £600 per capita. The average in South London is £129 per capita. So that's a significant investment gap within the workforce on structured R&D. And we know the connection between investment in R&D and increased productivity and increased efficiency and ultimately higher level, better paid jobs for citizens of London. So that's what we've come together as a partnership to do. So we have the 5 boroughs, we have 9-10 universities now involved, and also 5 further education colleges, because we want to make the critical link between businesses investing in R&D and curriculum and skills available to enable people to move into the jobs that investment in R&D will do. One key audience for us is obviously businesses that perhaps haven't engaged with the knowledge base or university before. And that's where the Innovation Support Programme comes in. So in partnership with LSBU, Kingston University and several other university partners, we've designed the Innovation Support Programme to really be that initial bridging link for people with ideas and businesses with ideas to engage with the Innovation Support Programme, and through participation in that programme, then move on to other areas of collaborative activity with universities moving forward. So obviously what we hope to achieve with Big South London is greater levels of investment in R&D, higher levels of productivity and efficiency within the sub-regional economy, and ultimately create job opportunities for the citizens of South London resulting from that investment.
Wow. As chair, I'm going to ask one question. It's a very leading question to my panel, and this is, what is innovation?
Oh, how long you got? I feel like we should defer to. So I tell you what, I'll briefly respond to me, and then I'll defer over to our academic expert on this. I've kind of worked in innovation enterprise for probably the best part of 2 decades now, and without going all kind of theoretical and academic-y for a Wednesday morning, the definition that I find the easiest to work with is Peter Drucker's definition. And Drucker, writing in the 70s, basically said innovation is the new or the new application of the existing. And I think sometimes when people think about innovation, they think about, particle colliders under Wandsworth Common, or they think about huge kind of high big tech businesses. And actually, innovation is that, but it's also about incremental innovation. It's about businesses doing new things and implementing new ways of working or developing new products and new services within their existing business model. So it's not just about kind of game changing global innovation, it is about incremental innovation. And I think Drucker's definition captures that, which is, yes, it is about creating a new, but it's also about taking the existing and doing new things with it. And that new thing might be developing a new product or services, or it just might be you doing something new that your business or company has never done before. And I think if people keep that in their heads, the ideas that that they have for collaborating with universities become much more real. And we know for some research that the National Centre for University and Businesses published a few weeks ago, 60% of current interactions between businesses and universities are indeed in technology. They're about developing the new. But of the 100% of businesses that have collaborated with university, over 50% have collaborated on things to do with operational and business management, which is about them introducing new processes, new procedures, and new ways of working into their business. So over half of those interactions between business and universities and the knowledge base are about doing something new within your business, not necessarily breaking ground and doing something, globally new. But I'll shut up and defer to Sarah.
Not at all. That was a very good explanation, Paul. So well done on that. If I were to just to add to that, Helen, I would say I'll take what Paul said. Really, innovation is about bringing ideas to fruition that has value for your company. And this value is a continuous value. So not something that you're just thinking of doing in a short period of time, but it will bring continuous value for your organization. And similar to what Paul said, innovation can come in different shapes and forms. There's numerous studies out there on what degrees or types of innovation exist. As Paul said, you have the very transformative innovations that usually incorporate things like introduction of new technology or introduction of new ways of doing something that will disrupt the market that you're also in. But the bulk of innovations tend to be incremental innovations. And that's very much about making small changes or bringing in small new ideas into your business that will incorporate benefits, not just for your financially for your organization, but also for your customers. And at the end of the day, that's really what keeps customers coming to a company, is the fact that they know that their requirements and what they are basically requesting from the market is being responded to and being answered to. So in a nutshell, it can be incremental or it can be completely transformational in the form that the innovation is introduced, and it can vary greatly from process improvements, from technology improvements, from business model improvements and changes, to things like development of networks. For example, you realize that you can't do something by yourself and you need to create that network of companies that come together to basically provide benefits for yourselves and also for the others involved in that network. So it's very, very broad.
Wow. I think I'm going to pitch this back to you, Paul, because you're our history guru as well. And so what barriers have traditionally prevented SMEs from engaging with universities?
Yes, well, and then this kind of common themes and common answers way back to when I was working with the Chamber of Commerce in the Northwest and talking to businesses, in particular small owner-manager SMEs. I think that the first barrier I would probably highlight is sometimes business people think working with a university isn't for them. Potentially they might not have gone to university, or they didn't attend university, and they think that these universities are kind of impenetrable ivory towers that would basically draw the drawbridge and bring down the portcullis as soon as they approached. And actually the entire converse is true in terms of universities being open to collaboration and wanting to generate not just opportunities for the business, but also for their academic work and also for their student experience. So I think sometimes can be a little bit of an inferiority complex where they think their business isn't good enough to collaborate with a university, or they think their idea isn't innovative or interesting enough, and they might get laughed at and thrown out of the building, when that is simply not the case. I always say that there is always someone within a university that is interested in what you're interested in. You've just got to find them and find the route way through. And obviously we hope with the Innovation Support Programme, we help people find those route ways. And then I think there can be some traditional barriers in managing that relationship once it has been brokered. I think sometimes there can be kind of a bit of a stereotypical clash around timescales. Business works very, very fast. Academia works very, very slowly. And I don't think that is 100% accurate. I think somewhere in the middle is the truth. But I think confusion about timescales and that clash of understanding can create barriers. I think sometimes we don't help ourselves with terminology. I mean, we've referred to kind of knowledge exchange and knowledge transfer this morning, and that's very much a kind of academic world of kind of understanding of these concepts, when actually what we're much more around now is about kind of knowledge transfer and knowledge management, really. And I think sometimes the terminology we use and the language we use can form a barrier between academics and businesses to collaborate. I think sometimes we get really wound up with needlework, legal issues as well. We know that IP is a thorny issue, and when you're talking about creating new ideas and protecting those ideas. So I think sometimes we don't help ourselves as a sector, or the university sector, with our approaches to some of those legal issues, which delay things and put businesses off. And I think then finally there's a capacity issue. Sometimes universities aren't very good in kind of explaining to businesses that an academic that they might be collaborating with on a research project also has other areas of research and teaching responsibilities and student support and welfare and enrichment responsibilities. And sometimes I think in a very well-intentioned desire to want to collaborate and do things, we kind of play down the demands that are on academics' time and don't communicate those clearly to businesses. And I think that's when you start to get problems during a collaboration. But I think those would be probably the 4 or 5 that I would hit on. And I think the purpose of Big South London and the purpose of the Innovation Support Programme is to break down some of those, so businesses understand how the academic research process works, build those relationships with the academics, and there's very clear lines of visibility and communication on that.
Thank you very much, Paul. And that was a wonderful segue into Ewan, because Ewan is going to tell us how the Big Innovation Support Programme meets the needs of businesses who wish to innovate and grow. Ewan.
Thank you very much, Helen. And yeah, you're right, it segues in perfectly. I was just thinking to sort of add to one of these barriers to that mix is, I think what you can find is that, as we've mentioned, these are very often with businesses, we're thinking about very incremental, very sort of small step sort of innovation, which often, when you're looking at academics, you're looking at these gigantic pots of money that you want to be aiming for. If you're working with a business, you're talking about grants that are hundreds of thousands of pounds or millions of pounds. And if someone wants to do this really small incremental thing that they're just not sure and they need a little bit of academic help on, that those pots of money, they're not very relevant for that kind of research. And that's what Big, and so much of what Big is about, especially the Innovation Support Programme, is about bridging that gap, going for smaller interventions where we work with an academic for a few days to better understand something and work together on something that's innovative in this much more incremental way. And that's exactly what it is. That's what the Innovation Support Programme is really all about. We're about taking businesses that are smaller, maybe less mature or less familiar with the innovation process, and wanting to take part in these slightly smaller, more incremental, innovative processes, and helping businesses to hone that, to understand it. We have workshops. We start with a series of workshops which cover doing a sustainable innovation process and really understanding that and doing it properly, which then leads into looking at larger funding pots, looking at understanding your IP. We're all about sort of making sure that a business is properly protected and properly ready to actually undertake a very rigorous innovation process. And then, which is the final step in the project, in the program, which I'll speak a little bit about later, which is the actual providing the opportunity to have an intervention and to collaborate with an academic on a sort of smallish project that could then create, and the idea is to create this relationship to sort of get the foot in the door with the university, which is often where small businesses sort of fall down, is not knowing exactly how to interact and make that relationship. We're kind of, if you're thinking about getting the foot in the door, we're kind of constantly just pushing the door open to allow people to shove their foot in and create that relationship, which can then obviously lead to, you know, much larger interventions and, you know, creating these huge innovations that from the scale of Facebook and Jaguar and so on, hopefully sometime down the line.
That's super. I think it's all been very succinct, but I'm going to ask for any closing comments from the panel on what we've discussed, in case anyone's left anything out, basically. And then I'm going to take questions from the audience. And what I'd like everyone to do, it's a bit old-fashioned, but can you put the little yellow hand up, and then, you know, we'll invite you in to speak. So any closing comments, panel?
I mean, just, you know, I'll chip in first. Just from my perspective, you know, there is a collaboration imperative here, and I think there's so many benefits that businesses can get on not just a kind of one-off intervention basis, but on a much more longitudinal relationship by developing, you know, multifaceted relationships with the universities across South London. All our universities in South London are very different. They have different centres of expertise and research excellence, and businesses, you know, shouldn't think that they have to be siloed into one relationship with one institution. You know, they can work with multiple institutions, and obviously Big South London provides the kind of access point into that. You know, so you have incredibly specialist research institutes such as the Creative Computing Institute in the University of the Arts, you know, that's based in Wimbledon. So you've got some really, you know, kind of world-class levels of research and innovation, such as the Institute of Cancer Research with the Sutton Cancer Hub down in Sutton Borough. And there are such great benefits for SMEs to work with universities. You know, the credibility that is gained for an SME working with the university, the leverage and the influence, you know, that kind of potential to increase the efficiency and capacity and capability of the business on those incremental innovation steps. It opens up new channels for communication, new channels for networking, new channels for funding, and perhaps, you know, one of the things I'm particularly interested in, it's all talent. Our universities and colleges in South London create so much talent with their students that graduate every year and complete their studies. And I think the critical thing for me is how can we ensure that as much of that talent as possible lands in, you know, appropriate opportunities with South London businesses, and then enriches that businesses through the injection of that talent, and then the virtuous circle is then kind of perpetuated. And I think that concept of making South London sticky for talent is, I think, the challenge that we're thinking about with Big South London. And I would just urge all the businesses and owners and innovators in the room to get involved. At some point on your innovation journey, we can help.
Thank you so much. Any final comments? Yes, please, if it's okay. I wanted to add two things that both Paul has touched on, but also you, and that is that really the whole point of collaboration between a university and businesses, whether they're SMEs or larger, is the creation and exchange of knowledge. And similar to what Paul said, this seems like a terminology that we're very familiar with because we use it quite often, but really it's very much helping you identify where you are now, where you want to get to, what's missing in that midst of getting you to the place that you want to get to, and whether the university could potentially help you fill that gap. And this could either be through working with the academics, or it could be with working through with the students, or it could actually just be an initiative that's so new that basically offers an opportunity for research for both sides. So if I touch on the IP element that we continuously refer to, if there is anything new that is not out there, then of course we would look at something that we could both benefit from. And this isn't a one fits all scenario. It's very much a collaborative approach to how we look at these types of projects. If it's very much about helping you with knowledge that already exists and you just don't have access to it, you don't have the R&D department, you don't have the experience and the expertise on it, then that's much more clear cut and much more easier to implement. So it's more about don't be afraid. The whole point of these types of initiatives is to get you to where you want to get to, and also allow the universities to be part of that ecosystem of improvement for the region. And finally, on the point that Paul made, is that the best place to start off from is your local universities. They are basically looking to work with businesses like yourself, looking to partner with businesses like yourselves for the benefit of research, for the benefit of students, and for the benefit of the ecosystem that we're all part of. Thank you.
Thank you, Saha. Ewan?
I'll be nice and I'll try and be nice and succinct. What I think is something we've not touched on that much is the kind of environment that we can then innovate in, and thinking about really innovative environments. And something that rarely occurs and is very difficult to find, I think, especially for small businesses, is a sort of a situation where you're with businesses that aren't like yourself. So often we see businesses that, as Paul sort of mentioned, being siloed into something, and your contacts or businesses do something similar to you. And what is really unique, I think, about the innovation support program, especially, and many of the programs on Big, is that we're completely sector agnostic. We can have, I did a networking session the other day, and I love talking about this because it's great. We had a business that creates offshore structures and a business that makes scarves, and they were just helping each other in completely solving each other's problems by just having completely orthogonal ideas on their issues, because they're coming from a completely different angle. And that's something which is incredibly important for innovation, is having this outside of the box, completely different angle. And it's something that Big is all about creating. And we've, well, as we say, we've seen it in action in our networking sessions, where we're bringing together completely diverse and completely different businesses.
Thank you, Ewan. I can see some lovely little yellow hands. On my screen, I'm going to take Chandeep Koza first. Chandeep.
Hi there. Thank you very much, everyone. A question I have as a manager, owner of a SME. So there's two of us. There's myself and my wife. I've got a lot of experience as a freelance web developer over the last 15 years or so. I'm effectively moving into a rebrand of my previous digital agency. Are there systems in place that would be able to support an SME going through a rebranding to potentially loop students into that process with a potential longer term engagement? Because the ideal scenario here would be allowing academics and students to kind of see that entire end-to-end thought process, but also, once the business has been effectively relaunched, there'd be things around marketing, and there would also be a further stage of potentially some R&D work to build kind of like a starter kit to make web development easier for client projects. Does that sound like the kind of thing that might fit?
And I'll defer to my two university colleagues, but I think my short answer would be yes. I think that's exactly the type of development that the ISP, the Innovation Support Programme, was designed to help facilitate. So as you know, and Ewan will touch on this later, but as part of one of the outcomes of the ISP, there is then a collaborative project which is developed with some of the participants who want to take those developments forward. And I think, referring to both the universities that are in the room this morning, both LSBU and Kingston, they have schools of art and design, and this is the kind of stuff that they do. So I don't wish to commit my university colleagues to doing anything because it's not me to commit them. But I think from what you've just said there, Chandy, the answer is yes.
Yeah. And if I may say, Chandeep, hang on in, for the rest of the presentation, because we're going to see some live case studies, and you never know, going forwards in the future, you might be a live case study. I can see Mike Salmon. You have your hand up.
Yeah, hello there. Hi. So I run a virtual and augmented reality studio. I say studio, it's just me. I used to be the head of immersive entertainment at NBC Universal, and now sort of flying solo. And so I'm based in Surbiton, but a lot of my projects, they end up being co-productions with different businesses like around the world, sometimes in the UK. So, you know, I will have a major input into what the project is, but the project company might be registered somewhere else in the country or somewhere else in another country. So how does that affect working with an organization like yours, which is very specific in its geography?
Yeah, I don't mind picking that up, and then if you want to come in on the back of it, Mike, as long as kind of your company is based within the 5 London boroughs within the South London Partnership, which it is, then we can work with you. We can't work with businesses on this programme outside of the South London region, but what the purpose of Big South London is as well is not just to plug businesses into the Big South London offer, it's also to plug it into the wider offer that is available through our universities in South London as well. So whilst the businesses that you're collaborating with might not be eligible for support through Big South London, there will be other programmes and offers and initiatives that the universities will be looking at, which the companies that you're collaborating would be interested in. And in relation to the sector that you're in, digital data and the interface creative industries is something that Big South London is strategically interested in terms of the potential for cluster and sectoral support and development. And to that end, we'll be launching, spoiler alert, we'll be launching in May a new set of business innovation networks. And one of those innovation networks, led by Kingston University and led by their School of Art, will be for creative and cultural industries, Mike. So I would suggest, if you're obviously in the mailing list and the updates there, but I would look at the ISP for this early stage scoping and initial support, but then take a look at when we launch the innovation networks, because that will be a cluster of creative industries companies that you might very possibly find that you have a family of collaborators there that Big South London will bring together in the same room.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. And I would add to that as well. It's something we'll get into later. It's a little bit technical, but whilst the business might be registered outside, if you have an operating address, which it sounds like you might well do, if there's an operational address for a project or something which is based within those 5 South London boroughs, if you can show us that with some sort of proof of it, then we're more than happy to let you obviously to be involved in the program. And I'd also echo Paul's words that we're actually this could be a perfect segue. Actually, this could be a perfect segue into, unless we want to take another question.
We have one more question.
One more question.
So
but
can we hold our segue?
We can hold the segue, and it will be a foreshadowing then. Where
that's what we like. And we will have an opportunity. Sorry, Ewan, jumping over. Apologies.
No problem.
We can ask more questions at the end, but I'm going to take the last question at this point before we have our live case study from Melissa Jogi. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I just wanted to ask a bit more for some clarity, maybe from the panel, about how do we anticipate universities being able to contribute above and beyond, the work that consultancies may be offering in the business sector. So what's the big difference? And some comments on that would be great.
And I don't mind kind of coming in on that first. If you would that be Melissa Jogi, researcher from the University of Roehampton?
That it is I. Hi, Paul.
Yeah. Well, there you go. To everybody in the room, you're on a call with a kind of research active academic from Roehampton who's doing some really interesting work right across South London, but in particular in kind of the east of South London. And Melissa, she hasn't queued this question up for me, I promise. I think where universities kind of go beyond the traditional consultancy support, and I used to work for a consultancy, so they did some good consultancies do really good stuff. It's more about the interdisciplinarity within a university and the broader picture that the diversity of academic disciplines and perspectives can actually bring to a business. Sometimes I'm a great believer in the arts and humanities and social science can add really interesting perspectives to business development. And I know part of Saha's job at Kingston is about reaching out across faculty structures to bring collaborative solutions together. So, and I think also the other thing that consultancies can't do, they can't plug you into the solution. They might design a solution and get you to a solution, but then they can't plug you into how that then actually happens. And I think where universities can bring postgraduate talent, postdoctoral talent into these organizations from a wide range of academic disciplines, they can put the people into those businesses to actually then drive that business forward, rather just ending up with a very nice, polished, shiny consultancy report. And I am also a great believer in the fact that, some consultancies steal your watch and then charge you to tell the time. And if we can build capacity into our South London institutions who have a significant contribution and responsibility for place-based regeneration and development, then that is about building capacity for long-term relationships. And long-term relationships with consultancies can be very expensive, where long-term relationships with universities, I think, can actually be very diverse and very enriching. And apologies if any consultants in the room. I do not wish to offend anybody. I was one of your kind once.
And I'd add to what you said, Paul, in that, I mean, you're right. You're right to say, thinking about the cost. A lot of the businesses that we're working with, it's a young business that doesn't have a large sort of store of cash to spend on a consultant. And what we're providing with the Innovation Support Program and with some of the other programs with Big is that the support is free. It's completely free of charge to people taking part. And it's the idea is, as you've said, Paul, to foster a relationship, which will then go on to further development, possible further grant applications, which again, it's not as large of or maybe not any investment of capital from the firm.
Excellent. So I think Ewan, you can segue yourself in your belated segue. Off we go.
Absolutely. And yes, this was to go back to that point about sort of immersive technology, which is that we have a sort of center of excellence is the particular term, but we have a great department and we have various projects, ACE IT, which is currently coming to a close, and also the Hi3 network, which is run at LSBU, which we have relationships with. We like to sort of push people. If we think we don't have the exact perfect stuff on Big, we're going to push you towards Hi3 or another program that we think is really relevant to what you're trying to do. And we've got Adam Parkinson, who has worked on the ACE IT, which stands for ACE Immersive Tech, who's going to be he's the academic who worked with Gong and Selma, who, if you turn your camera on Selma, so Gong, and oh wow, she's got so many gongs in the background, what a perfect setting. So Gong is a company which runs gong baths for sort of meditative purposes across London, and also moved into the online space. And what Adam and Selma worked together on the ACE IT program with LSBU was to bring that and actually make that an immersive experience, because so much of what a gong bath is about is the experience of being in there and the reverberations with the room. And if you're using a rubbish Zoom mic on a laptop, you definitely lose almost all of that. And they work together to find a solution to that in a very similar way that the big academic collaborations would run. So I'm going to hand over to Adam and Selma to tell us a bit more about the intervention they had there.
Oh, hi, thanks very much for having me. Hi, everyone. So yeah, maybe to begin, I'll just introduce myself and then can introduce Selma and talk about the project. So I'm Dr. Adam Parkinson. I'm a senior lecturer in music and sound design in the School of Arts and Creative Industries. So as well as teaching on this course, which is all about getting students to develop their music practice and learn about doing sound for games and film and TV. I'm involved in quite a lot of research where music and music technology plays a central role. So this is, ranged from in the past developing tools for visually impaired musicians to kind of working with artists to realize multi-speaker immersive installations that sonify data and things like that. And I've worked quite a bit on the ASIC collaborations, which I think is accelerating the creative economy through immersive technology. Universities absolutely love acronyms. So this has involved working with Mike Salmon, who I can see here, who's developing this virtual reality music production software, musical instruments, to currently working on helping develop an app for guitarists. and working with a company who are putting subwoofers in shoes. So a whole kind of range of projects that are going on. And yes, Selma, I was going to try and talk to you about the subwoofers in shoes, as I think there could be something, an interesting collaboration in the future. I'm also working on a High 3 project, which is the kind of continuation of ACIT, as Ewan said, or related to ACIT, where we're developing an immersive sound walk for the Rose Theatre. So this is one of London's oldest theatres who want to make a mobile app where you'll walk around the South Bank and your phone will know where you are, and it will play you these kind of binaural immersive recordings of Tudor London, and kind of help you connect with this very interesting historic area, and this interesting period in England's history. So I guess, you know, within the School of Arts and Creative Industries, we have a lot of specialist knowledge that we can share amongst kind of the course team, and you know, the different course teams and postgrad researchers. We've got specialist facilities equipped for doing things like virtual production, recording studios where we can do like Dolby Atmos mixing, and a lot of really high-end equipment. And also we've got students who are experts, who are often early adopters of technology, and who are great people to kind of test out technology, to do user studies with, and to get feedback on ideas. And everyone, I think, is very kind of open and engaged. So I feel like I've been talking people's ears off about me and LSVU. So perhaps you should hand over to you, Selma, to introduce yourself, and then where we started with the collaboration.
Sure, thank you, Adam, and thank you as well, Ewan, for that great introduction. My name is Selma, the founder of Gong. As Ewan mentioned, we're a Gong bath provider. Gong bath is an immersive experience. You lie in front of instruments like the ones you see behind me, and you feel sound, as well as obviously the mental effects of kind of being put into a meditative state because of the brainwave entrainment. I started the business in 2018. It was originally a brick and mortar concept. Never did I think that I would be delivering this experience in a virtual format. But of course, in March 2020, we all know it happened. You know, the pandemic hit. We locked down our central London studio where we had space for 12 people to enjoy this experience. And so we almost immediately pivoted online, as many fitness and well-being providers did, using Zoom at the start, because we really just wanted to be there for our clients at a time that was really challenging. Zoom at the time was not made, not fit for purpose. You know, the sound coming out of there was not great. I think people still appreciated that connection with us because they knew that, but we knew that we had a lot of technology challenges ahead to sort out the sound and to really deliver a high quality experience. So we started to make improvements on our own, and then I was lucky to come across ACIT and to connect with London South Bank University kind of at the end of 2020, I think is when we first started having some discussions. The program officially kicked off in March 2021. So by that time, we kind of had a year of experience. You know, we had our process down pat, but the missing piece was the technology. So we worked with Adam and his colleague Jack Driscoll at London South Bank to look at what kind of technology solutions are out there, both from a hardware and a software perspective. And Adam, in a minute, probably you can talk a bit more about that. But our main challenge was just, how do we transmit this experience? How do we recreate this experience that's so tangible and such a, you know, amazing sound into a virtual format? And if we have time at the end, we recorded a bit of a clip from the result of that. Adam, do you want to talk a bit about the technology angle, and then I'll talk a bit about the case study? Or
yeah, sure. So I mean, first up, it was a great project to encounter through ACIT, in part because we've been dealing with exactly the same problems as you had. I mean, our classes are probably a little bit less immersive, and I don't know whether there's much brainwave entrainment when I'm teaching, but we were trying to kind of do all this stuff, teaching, recording and teaching mixing, things where you need really high quality audio, and that was, really difficult in the pandemic. So we had a lot of practical understanding of different ways of trying to do high quality audio over Zoom, and also using kind of other technologies, and also some ideas around slightly more I wouldn't say esoteric, that's not quite the right word, but different kind of immersive technology, I suppose, like binaural audio and ideas for potentially making experience remote and immersive. So I don't know if people have any experience of binaural audio. This is it's often described as virtual reality audio or 3D audio. It's basically when you can listen to stuff in your headphones, but it doesn't sound like it's inside your head. It sounds like it's coming from outside your head. It's actually quite an old technology. It was first used in like Paris in the 1880s to transmit theatre recordings, and live, not recordings, but live opera and theatre performances. But if you have microphones, and again, you might have seen these microphones that are shaped kind of like a dummy head, or that have some model of the ear in them, and when they record sound, they capture a lot of the way that your ears will filter sounds, and the sound sounds like it's coming from outside your head rather than inside your head. So one of the things that we were interested in trialing with Gong was if you recorded a gong bath through one of these binaural microphones, then would it feel for the listeners as though they were more actually present in that gong bath rather than it being a kind of remote experience. So this was one of the technologies that we wanted to trial, alongside something called audio movers, which is something that's now owned by Abbey Road Studios, which is something we're using that lets you transmit really high quality audio over the internet in theory. So we kind of put together a document with a few different possible technological routes, depending on how much money could be spent, and then we also developed a method for testing these. So running a series of different gong baths, each one with a slightly different technical combination, and then getting people to fill in a survey afterwards to try and find out how immersive the experience was, and also how easy it was to kind of connect and to access that experience. Do you want to add anything?
Sure, yeah. So what was really helpful was, one, the technology direction. I would have never have come across audio movers. That was something new to me. The binaural mic, that was something that kind of we were aware of, but we weren't quite sure how to implement that. We were really lucky to be able to use the resources of London South Bank to actually have access to one of those, so that we could test that in our, in our live streams before kind of going out and purchasing on our own, and who knows if that works. And then the case study and how that was structured by Adam was also just immensely valuable to us. We had a really detailed survey, and we set it up as a series of 4 sessions over the course of a month in October of that year. And we had about 127 participants, come with us throughout that journey. So really good data set that resulted from that. And each time we tested a different combination. So we were looking at binaural plus Zoom. How does that sound? Just audio movers plus a regular microphone through Zoom. How does that sound? So that we could see, what's going to be the best option for us as a business going forward, because we have a team of about 10 practitioners streaming from their homes. Might not be feasible for us to buy a binaural microphone for all 10 of those, but maybe we have a few, and then maybe others can use, their regular microphones using audio movers as more of a low cost solution, still delivering a really high quality sound. Adam, did you want to talk about the outcome of the survey, or would you like me to touch on that?
Well, I suppose I can briefly summarize that the outcome seemed to be that the binaural was providing a really immersive experience, and audio movers was working, but you've now been working with the system for a few months, so perhaps you can describe the outcome better than me.
Absolutely. So as Adam mentioned, by far people love the binaural. There are a few a little bit of unexpected feedback there, that, for example, Mark, my colleague, was streaming from his house, and he has a cat. And so at one point, the cat came in and people thought it was in their room. It sounds so real that they didn't realize, it's actually part of coming from his home. So you really kind of feel like you're in someone else's living room, which is can be relaxing, but can also be a bit unsettling. So as a wellness business, we had to weigh that, to what extent does that actually create anxiety for people versus relax them. But in the end, what we've now implemented into many of our sessions is using audio movers with just a regular microphone. So some of our practitioners have stereo microphones, some do have some kind of more spatial type microphones. Some just have a mono microphone. But even just using the audio movers as a low latency feed, the feedback we've gotten is that it just takes the experience to a whole new level. So we've now actually implemented that into our business so we can offer in a way a more premium experience, a better experience. And that's just been immensely valuable for us. We feel good about what we're doing, and for our clients, they love it. They love that they can come and it's not just, another Zoom. You get to have a better quality experience.
And hopefully, I guess it's even though things are going back to normal and in person, hopefully it now gives you kind of access to more markets and people joining remotely.
Absolutely. I think especially, a lot of people talk about Zoom fatigue, and we say we totally understand that. Actually, you don't even have to be on camera. Most people aren't on camera. We even turn our cameras off for this session because it's about deep listening. And if you're watching, you're not really in it. So we do think that we can offer something a bit different. And Audio Movers has a user app, a consumer app, so people could lie in a park now if they have good enough internet to kind of have this experience versus, being connected with Zoom. You really need a wired connection for it to be good. So it just opens up lots more use cases for our clients as well in terms of where they can have this experience now that things are normalizing a bit. So yeah, that's a great point. Shall we give a taste? I don't know if we have time for that. We have like a 4-minute recording. I don't know if there's time to share that.
Yeah, I think we've got enough time for that, and then we can take a couple of questions. I think possibly for you and Adam after that recording, and then we'll move into our little short networking session.
Okay, great.
Super.
Just to preface, if you have a pair of headphones handy, highly recommend putting them on because that's what's going to give you that binaural effect of the sound moving around in space. If you're just listening from a speaker, hopefully it sounds nice, but you won't quite get that kind of directional sound. So go grab some speakers as I share my computer sound here and bring it up. All right, so let's hope this works. Okay. All right, so it should come on soon. Someone can give me a thumbs up when you start to hear it and let me know volume is okay. You've drifted off somewhere, slowly coming back now. And just to say, that might have been more stereo mode. I don't know, Adam, how it came across to you, but the live stream version of that is really quite spatialized. How did it sound, Adam? It is a recording, so normally we live stream it, yeah.
Well, I've got earbuds in, which I'm not. I think it could have been mono in mine. I wasn't too sure if that is my. They often disrupt the sound, but it sounded really beautiful. A great recording.
Yeah.
Can we take any questions from anyone?
Thanks so much. That was absolutely amazing. I didn't know gongs could make such deep sounds. There's some of those sounds in there that I've never heard before in my life. And it's if there's any threat that we're going to run over, it's because I feel so relaxed that I'll probably be going really, really slowly for the rest of the session. We did have one question actually while you were presenting, which came from Sarah Bandurka, I think, which asks, says, "Amazing work, Adam. Congratulations. Do you work with schools who have students with impaired learning?"
No, I haven't done, at least not yet. But yeah, the working with visually impaired musicians project that we did was working with a bunch of professional musicians in the UK and America. But no, all I say is not yet.
Cool. And do we have I saw a hand go up and then it seemed to have disappeared, but if your hand was up, then please do unmute and ask away. There we go. We have a hand that's popped up there. Hi, it's Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Sorry, me again. Thank you all. Absolutely fascinating session. I'd be really interested to hear from Adam and Selma what advice they would give to businesses embarking on support from the big innovation, from the Big South London Innovation Programme.
I'd be almost inclined to direct this to Ewan, because I think who would know the intricacies of like how to apply for these things. I don't know whether the best thing to do is to kind of find the academic department school that you want to work with first, or to go through the through one of the channels like Big or other programs like High 3.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we have with the innovation support program, and it's a great question actually, is you can kind of do both in a way. We have a few businesses that have come on board who have some sort of existing relationship or familiar with an academic that they know is at one of the partner institutions, which are Kingston and St Mary's, and we also do have the option of certain other universities in the area that are linked to Big. So we do have some people that have come in with a little bit of knowledge of maybe who they want to work with, or already know that they can work with this person. But also what we run is, as part of the program, which I'll get into later when I go a little bit through exactly what the layout of the program is. We run a sort of, almost part of it is almost like a triage. So we learn a bit about the business. We try and get an idea of what the sort of innovation that each business is trying to do. And then I meet with my colleagues, one of them being Sahar, and then other colleagues at St Mary's University as well, to take that information, pull it together, think about which academics we know of, which departments we have, which specialisms we have at those universities, reaching out to those academics and saying, we've got this business that's trying to do this. Can you do it? Are you interested in working with them? They might say no, but this person, this other academic in the department knows loads about that. And so it's what we're trying to do is facilitate those relationships, even if you don't know exactly who it is or even what it is that you're trying to do. Someone might say, oh, they're thinking of doing this. Well, what about if they tried to do this instead? So we're all about creating those relationships and trying to find new ideas. And I think, do we have any other questions at all? And Sarah, has that answered your question?
Yes, very much. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Hi, my name is Aisha. I have a question. I joined at 10, so apologies if this has already been covered. How many projects can you work on during the duration of the course?
So we've got our, so we sort of run cohorts. So we've got coming up is cohort 2. We also have 2 more after that. And I'll go through the sort of timetable for that later on. But we generally take between 20 and 25 businesses onto each cohort, and then moving through to that knowledge-based collaboration, which is that last stage where there is that more intensive work with an academic. That tends to be about a quarter of the businesses. So we're looking at around sort of 5 or so per cohort.
And sorry, within those businesses, like I have a drinks business, Carrot Sips Drinks. And one thing I'm looking at is sugar reduction.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to be successful, could I work on sugar reduction in one range and then the development of another if there was time, or would it just be that focus on one, if that makes sense?
I would say from experience, the best thing to do with these sort of things is to really specifically look at one thing, especially with this particular program, the Innovation Support Program. The amount of funding available for those knowledge-based collaborations is best to look at. It's as we've said earlier, it's a smaller intervention. It's looking at more incremental change. But as I think Paul alluded to as well, there are various different programs that fall under BIG that are part of it. So we've got the voucher program, which is a slightly larger amount. We've just launching, or I think just about to close actually, unfortunately, is the hothouse applications, which is for larger scale pieces of research. And also fostering relationship means that there's the possibility to look to other funding sources as well. If for example, at LSBU, we have the London Agri-Food Innovation Clinic, which is specifically looks at food and drinks products as well.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, well we've hit 10:30, so unless there are any other last questions for Salma and Adam, we'll segue cleanly into our short sort of networking section of the day. So if anyone, how I generally run this is we just ask if anyone wants to say a little bit about their business and what it is that they do, then please raise your hand.
Ewan,
Yes.
Can you press, we can't get onto the video. Can you let us in so we can show ourselves off, please?
Of course. That should have worked.
Good. There you go. There we go. I'm there. Is everyone else there?
There we are. We've got Sahara as well. And Paul, it's Paul's birthday today, so he's nipped off into he's actually nipped off into another meeting, sadly, for his birthday.
Yeah, poor old Paul. Can everyone else, put their videos on? Yes,
yes, I think everyone can. Lovely.
It is nice to see people. Jolly good.
Wonderful, lovely to see all these faces.
Oh, that's much better. Lovely. So people are going to, well, we have Hannah's hand. Are you going to tell us what you do, Hannah? Go and see your hand up.
Yeah, that was, yeah, if that's okay. And if that's, yeah.
Yes, far away.
Hi, and thank you so much. Yeah, I run a music venue in Sutton. Well, actually, I've got one based in Sutton and a pop-up based in Morden, in Merton. And we are the first carbon neutral music venue. So we're very much grassroots. We're very much about, local people, local art. So supporting local artists, but also engaging people in art in a way that kind of, it changes lives. We all know that. We're all involved in creative industry. Yeah, so but we're very much committed to the green agenda as well. So I'm really, really interested in this, and my mind's going crazy with lots of thoughts and ideas. But specifically, we've been talking about, and I don't know if this is too pie in the sky, we are officially carbon neutral. We do an enormous amount to reduce our carbon impact, but we would like to look at innovations to create energy. We've obviously got small spaces, and it could be energy just for the sake of, you know, education and engaging people. And, you know, this might be only enough to charge a phone, but it's something. Or it could be, you know, if it could be more than that, we would be, you know, we'd be really interested in that. So that's kind of what's going on.
That's really fantastic. Thanks for describing your business, and it's a really fascinating enterprise. And I'd say that, yeah, we have at LSBU, certainly we've got I think it's a center of excellence in low carbon. The LSBU is also being part of what Paul mentioned earlier, which is the innovation networks, which are another part of the big program, specifically running one that's around sort of introducing low carbon to different areas of the economy. So I would say we definitely have some academics and some departments that would really fit the bill. And then also, I mean, thinking of, you know, Adam is part of the arts and creative industries department at LSBU, that you know, your business is so broad and across the spectrum that I'm sure there's plenty of places where you could get involved.
I feel that too. Yeah, thank you.
At all. Thanks very much.
Ewan, if I can say, I keep on seeing a few messages. Some people can't get their cameras back on. Is it because you shut us all off earlier?
Let's see. It could be that, yes. Who's not able to get the camera on?
And Hannah, may I also say, this is slightly out of the box, but regarding everything you're talking, also see what your local authority is doing, because there's a massive push, obviously, for greener technology, etc.
Greener technology, yeah. We do work with the local authority.
You know, you'll see what their push is.
Yeah.
Especially if you're, you know, going across different boroughs. Oh, yeah, we got everyone back.
I'm going through them now and just clicking. But does anyone else want to introduce their business at all?
Well, I think we do have. I can't.
Oh yeah, I've got a couple of hands up.
Yeah,
there we go. We have Olasola. Olasola, do you want to introduce your business?
Hi everyone, my name is Olushola, and I would be a business coming into London soon. I'm not in London at the moment. We have a sustainable women's wear brand that's looking to use augmented reality and virtual reality in sales and promotional strategy. And so we are looking to introduce what we do into the London space. And I just wondered if this might be a good avenue to do that. What would be my first step? What would be your recommendations for first steps?
Is that first steps into moving the business into London, or about getting onto the program? Yeah.
Getting onto the program and moving into London.
Yeah. Well, one thing to note with the program is we're based, so it's the South London region. So Croydon, Kingston, Merton, Sutton, Richmond. And yeah, what I'll actually get onto in just a moment, once we finish the networking session, is I'll explain the next steps. So what it is you need to know in terms of eligibility for the program, and then how to actually literally, you know, complete the registration form and get yourself on board.
Okay. That's good. You and I can see Catherine has her hand up, and then Mike again. Shall we do these two introductions about their businesses, then you tell us about the registration?
Perfect. Yeah.
Catherine.
Thank you.
Katerina.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's my vision. Katerina, apologies.
Sorry, I thought that might be another Catherine.
No, I'm so sorry.
Good morning, everyone. Kat from IQ United. We are a business based in Kingston upon Thames, and we are very sort of into technology, innovation, and also green. We've sort of always been looking to lower our impact and have been using electric vehicle to service our clients since 2017, and recently have achieved a Green Mark Level 2 together with the local council initiative, the Green Business Challenge. And I'm also sort of involved with the local chamber, and I'm also the president of the chamber as well. So it's great to sort of encourage the innovation and the collaboration between businesses, universities, and also getting young people into work. So we always looking for talent. And I think a great idea might be to sort of do more engagement with sort of local chambers to come along to maybe networking events and try and highlight what kind of opportunities there might be, because it sort of might seem a bit doubting to businesses that maybe they're not so much into the innovation, where if it's put to across the businesses that, you know, if you are trying to change how you do something, but make it better or make it engage new technologies, that's also something you can engage with the universities about. So I think it's increasing the sort of level of understanding within the businesses, which I think would be great.
Yeah.
Can I just say something to Catherine, and apologies, fellow president of the chamber. Yeah, my bad vision squinting. What I'd like to say that I'm here for South East London Chamber. You know, we're 5 boroughs, the 5th one being Croydon. There are other initiatives going on in other areas, and I also chair London's local chambers, which is a group of networks across, and we're in turn affiliated to the London Chamber. And I'd be really happy to have a conversation outside of this, how we in the chamber world, which gets us to the London Chamber and the British Chambers of Commerce, how we can support, we're talking about big today, but you know, there are other, you know, obviously smaller things going on in other boroughs, but then we can link it all out. What do you think to that?
Yeah, brilliant. I'll drop you my, I'll drop you my details.
That would be super, because we're very specific. Like I have 5 boroughs, but I'm talking about one at the moment, which is Croydon. But as I say, we can roll it out in our other, you know, in the other boroughs.
Yeah, brilliant. I'll drop you a message, and yeah, let's work together.
That's super. And I've just seen Merton there. Yeah, so we'll do that. And I know Merton had one of these programs. They were the first one, weren't they? Merton?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
And as well to Katerina, if you mentioned sort of networking sessions possibly that you guys were running, please do drop me an email, because we're always looking for new ways to sort of engage with businesses in the South London Partnership region. And any networking session is always great, and I love coming along to those.
And maybe we can push, because from the LSBU point, Sarah Moore-Williams, who's the Dean of the Business School, is also the chair of the Southwark Chamber of Commerce. Boom. So we've got a really good network.
Yeah, and brilliant. She's also involved, Sarah Williams is also involved in running one of the business innovation networks in supply chain management, which is also part of FIG. So we've got a whole wicker work there of interconnected things. Do we want to move on to one last business possibly?
Mike's had his hand up for ages.
Yes, I saw. I was going to say, Mike.
Thanks. I'm afraid I'm having all sorts of connection issues, and my webcam's decided not to work. So you won't be able to see me, but you've already seen what I look like, so it doesn't really matter. So I want to talk specifically about one of the products that we're working on. So we are creating a new format for the display of digital art. And so Adam knows me from my music project, and then this is another project that we're working on, which is based around augmented reality. And what we're doing is we're creating these pieces of physical artwork. So they are metal flowers, which we use some computer vision techniques. So when your phone looks at the flower, it recognizes the flower, and then it turns the flower into a sort of projector for AR artworks that then hover above the flower. With the idea being that most augmented reality artwork that you see at the moment is pretty hard to find because there's nothing there. That's the point, right? And so, you know, and then the idea is we're going to then manage that from a back-end system, so we can change the content that is on those flowers. And we're looking at using those in public spaces and also creating like a home entertainment version. So, you know, we're looking for sort of potential partners in terms of the actual creating of the content, because we're having to essentially build a new format, and we've got to try to get all these pieces to run on a mobile phone, and we're trying to push the quality of the experience that you can run on a mobile phone, and then we're also looking for artists that we can work with that are interested in exploring this new space and trying to create something within some fairly specific frameworks in terms of what they're able to do in the you know, in Maya or whatever it is, you know, whatever they're using. And then finally, we're looking for a public spaces to put these artworks so that we can then show content off that's been created to run on them.
Oh, thanks so much, Mike. That sounds incredibly interesting, and that, I mean, it's definitely something where we've, I think as Adam's possibly alluded to through ACE IT, immersive tech, we've definitely have a sort of track record in working in that sort of augmented reality space and bringing new technologies to that, and that sounds like a really interesting project you're working on there. So it'd be fantastic to have you on board and getting through the workshops. Also, you mentioned sort of it sounds as if funding would also be, you know, a really relevant thing.
Absolutely.
As well for that business, and that's, you know, it's what we're all about, is outfitting businesses with those skills to sort of find the right funding. The funding is for them, not to get the wrong sort of thing. And as I say, also fostering those relationships. Obviously, you have an existing relationship with LSVU, and I'm sure that's something we could work to build on as well. So thank you very much, Mike. So I see a couple of extra hands. Unfortunately, we won't have time so sorry to Anna and Julie, we won't have time to get to yourselves. But there's, if you're able to join the program, we obviously have loads of networking opportunities there as well. And I've just seen in the chat that Chandeep, I think, has mentioned his link in there to possibly work with Mike as well. So that's the sort of stuff that we love to see, businesses already networking and potentially trying to work together. So what I'll do, without much extra fanfare, I'm going to share my screen, and then we'll take a look at just how to actually get on board and what the sort of requirements are. So is that sharing? Is that working perfectly? Yeah, if I can get a thumbs up from someone. Perfect, cool. So there's a few basic sort of eligibility criteria. Businesses have to be registered or have an operational address. So as long as you have a business bank statement or a business bill or something of that nature, that you can sort of prove to us that your business is operating within the 5 boroughs there that are on that lovely luminous map. You have to be a registered business or sole trader, or we've actually recently also sort of said charitable organizations. So even if you're not a registered business, if you're a registered charity or CIC, then that's also completely relevant for us. As we've already mentioned, any industry sector, we're really proud of that. We love it. We love the fact that we have people coming from all different areas and sort of joining the minds and thinking in ways we wouldn't normally think, and having interactions that might never have happened in a sort of conventional space. Then there's this size of business which we don't really attract any businesses that are even remotely close to this limit, but you have to have less than 250 employees and a turnover of less than 50 million euros. I used to work for a bank which actually didn't meet these criteria. So that's to give you an idea of quite how massive a business would have to be too large for the program. And something I often forget to mention, because when you don't have a price, you forget the prices exist. The program is completely free of charge to anyone who wants to take part. My next slide. So just to give you an idea of what the program looks like when you're involved, we start with an innovation health check. So this is a one-to-one session with one of our, I think we have 5 business innovation mentors who are varied across being consultants, working some in the EU Commission for Innovation, former investment bankers, former business owners, etc., who mentor and will provide a 1.5 hour session to get an idea and get an understanding of your business and what it is you're trying to do, what your goals are. And they'll point you in the right direction and give you general advice and point you in the right direction for stage 2, which is our innovation growth workshops. So we have a series of 10 workshops run in collaboration with St Mary's University and also with Sussex Innovation Centre, which provides some really great and engaging facilitators through that. So it kind of covers everything from literally understanding your own innovation process, getting it underway, through sort of the sort of business support almost stuff of your leadership skills, presentation skills, these kind of base and core things that are really important to have a proper foundation before you move into these stages of innovation. And then there's a set of the sort of 4 workshops for the more developed businesses, which look at things like intellectual property, how to protect yourself in a really effective way, finding the right funding for you and having sort of stable finances for your business. We have also strategies, so run by a great professor at St Mary's called John Caractlas, as a session on literally scaling your business and how to do it in an effective way and how to have sustainable growth for your business, that you can sort of keep going at a safe and workable rate. And then we also have a specific workshop which is fantastic on bid writing. So we have someone who works with us who's been on both sides of the coin, been a civil servant, writing bids for people to apply to, and then has also works for St Mary's to apply to bids. So he really knows both sides of that coin, which is a really fantastic and kind of unique viewpoint to give people advice on how to write really successful bids. So after the growth workshops, we have the post-support mentoring session. It's a chance to check back in with your mentor from the innovation health check and think about how the strategies you're going to use to be applying those learnings that you've had from the workshops into your business and how to sort of move forward. And then finally, the knowledge-based collaborations. So these are, as we mentioned, the opportunities for about a quarter of the businesses who take part to work with an academic on a sort of agreed project or agreed collaboration, and really do some sort of more in-depth kind of rigorous research on a sort of small scale research project. And to give you the way to apply, we have our online form. That's the URL there. No need to copy it down. You can just go over to bigknowledge.co.uk, and if you use the menu, you can find the innovation support program, and our registration form is on there. I'll also be sending around a link to all of this to everyone who's attended today, so that you can just click through, and we have our registration form. It's fairly simple. It has some slightly funny questions for for our funders we need to ask. We just need to find out lots of information, which it makes it a little bit long, but it's definitely worth it. I would highly recommend. And then you can see there the dates. I'll also send these around. You can see we sort of start in 18th of April, and then we run through towards sort of mid-June. And what that innovation and growth workshops, what that looks like in terms of time commitment. We have 2 workshops per week. They run on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They're between 2 and 3 hours long, and they're in the mornings. What I would say is we don't expect businesses to necessarily come to them all. Some businesses do. Some businesses just think, I'm going to use this almost like as a training process and come to every single one. And we're very much happy for businesses to also say, actually, these 4 workshops are actually going to be the most relevant to me. So they're the ones that I'll attend. And we also record all of our workshops. So if unfortunately you can't make one, you can't make it to one, I share all the recordings and you can get them online and catch up if you do miss anything. And if those dates for this upcoming cohort 2 just aren't quite viable for you, we are also running cohorts 3 and 4, and you've got the dates there. So one starting in sort of early to mid-June, and then another one that starts in September as well. And that is everything from me. I'll hand back over to Helen, who's going to wrap up.
Thank you very much, Ewan. And will you be, I'm going to ask a couple of things. Can you'll be sending us, a link for this so we can all swatch it up? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is there any possibility, because unfortunately my earphones were upstairs and I couldn't hear Summer's the good, lovely Gong music. Is there any possibility, or maybe Adam somewhere, where we could just have a little tiny bit that we could, a link, we could just listen to something with the appropriate headgear? No, Adam, is that being a bit cheeky?
No, I think Selma's best place to answer this.
Right.
I would say I'd highly recommend signing up for a Gong bath.
Yes.
Sure.
Well,
I'd be happy to make the link available. I'll send it through to Ewan, I guess, and he can distribute accordingly. And then we run these sessions regularly, so I'll also include which ones specifically are using this technology in case you want to come to one of our live streams.
That's lovely. And then the other link I'm going to ask Ewan, because we know birthday boy Paul has left us for another meeting, but can he send us the Drucker's definition of innovation so we can all learn it?
Yeah, of course.
The 70s. So we get the right one. We can all learn that one off by heart.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea. We can also sound as informed and smart as Paul.
Super. And wearing my chamber hat, we will be sending, once we've got the links, we will be doing another push with all our Croydon, only our Croydon members, but we'll be doing this as soon as we've got them.
Wonderful.
So, and I'm sure my fellow or the other chamber colleagues will do this. We'll work for have our big London and the chamber world.
Great.
So personally, I've really enjoyed this morning. I have learned such a lot, and I hope everyone feels the same. And on behalf of cohort 2s, I'd like to thank, we've lost Patrick, but I'd like to thank Paul Kirkbright. Let me just get I've lost mine. Saha Mansouri Zangir, who was brilliant. And we want to come and see you, Saha, with your innovation knowledge, and you've done a brilliant job. Thank you so much. So I think we say good night and thank you, or good morning and goodbye. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
There we go.